It's Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, and here's the latest happenings inside the federal machine. Today is Charlie Kirk National Day of Remembrance, and Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika, received Charlie's Presidential Medal of Freedom on his behalf. Also, another narcoterrorist vessel was bombed by U.S. forces in the Caribbean, taking out 6 drug traffickers. And President Javier Milei from Argentina, he visited the White House today and participated in a luncheon with some of Trump's cabinet members. I also came across a number of posts by Democrats regarding the Israeli hostage release, none of whom gave any credit to President Trump's peace efforts. That I don't think will surprise anyone. And China decided to withdraw their purchase of U.S. soybeans, and the U.S. looks into retaliatory moves, including the termination of all cooking oil purchases from China, among other possibilities. As usual, the partial government shutdown continues without any effort to reopen from the Democrats. And the U.S. Treasury is investigating the financial paper trail into the Antifa terrorist organization, as the Treasury Department led the way in tracking terrorist financing after 9/11. And there's a lot more to get into, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribe. And I do the Swamp Monday through Friday every evening, usually post around 11 o'clock p.m. at the latest. So, and also every article that you will see in the video will be linked in the description below, just in case I forget to mention that throughout the episode. And I'm going to start right here from the GOP, from Donald J. Trump's Truth Social account. Just got back from the Middle East. What a point in time it was. The crowd for Charlie Kirk's Presidential Medal of Freedom presentation is so big and enthusiastic that I moved it out to the new Rose Garden, where everyone can see the Presidential Wall of Fame and the Palm Court renovation. Enter through main south entrance. That sounds like anybody was invited. You know, just come on down, just check out the White House. Anybody, just come right on in, find a seat. Just the way it was worded just kind of sounded quite inviting. And this is from House Republicans. Today, on his 32nd birthday, we honor Charlie Kirk, a happy warrior whose voice inspired millions of young Americans. On this National Day of Remembrance, our hearts still ache from the tragic and despicable act of violence that took him too soon. He was a joyful voice who never backed down, inspiring millions to embrace freedom and faith with courage and conviction. We'll always carry the torch of his movement forward. Charlie Kirk, National Day of Remembrance, October 14th, 2025. And this is from Rapid Response 47 from the president. Quote, I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erika Kirk. Erika, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you. Let's take a listen.
I'm honored to be joined by a woman who has endured unspeakable hardship with unbelievable strength, and that's Charlie's widow, Erika. And I just want to thank you, Erika. He loved you so much. I was with him. Oh, please. Thank you, darling. Thank you. I was with him before I met Erika, and he told me he was going to get married. He said, you won't believe how beautiful she is. I said, well, then now that I meet her, he's right. But then he also
there you
said,
go.
And you know what? She's like the smartest person I know. See, they do go together on occasion. Not often. Not often. But on occasion they go together. But he was in love with you. He was deeply in love with you. It's great. Erika, your love and courage have been an inspiration to all of us, and we will always be here for you, and we're always going to be here for your gorgeous, beautiful children, and we'll never forget what your family has sacrificed for our country. Man loved our country.
Man, that's amazing. President Trump, he's given a speech for Charlie Kirk with his widow Erika there. Just absolutely horrific what happened, and such just unspeakable, just completely awful that our country's gotten to this point. And anyway, so I have another one from Rapid Response 47. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Let's give it a look here.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to Charles James Kirk. Accepting on behalf of Charlie is his wife, Mrs. Erika Kirk. Charlie Kirk was one of the most influential American political figures of his generation.
Hands down,
man. At just
man.
18 years old, he founded Turning Point USA and grew it into the largest conservative youth organization in the nation. For over a decade, he tirelessly traveled the country, leading a movement to restore respect for our founding principles, reawaken our national identity, and inspire a renewed spirit of religious devotion. He was one of the great debaters and communicators of his time. Despite receiving repeated threats, he remained undeterred and modeled courage, logic, humor, and grace to the next generation. On September 10th, 2025, at age 31, Charlie Kirk was assassinated while addressing a group of students. The United States honors him as a martyr for truth and freedom.
Man, oh man, what a moment. So sad, man. All right. President presents the Presidential Medal of Freedom awarded posthumously to the late Charlie Kirk, to his wife, Mrs. Erika Kirk. And it's 29 seconds. It's the exact same thing we just watched. Wasn't totally sure. I react to videos as I watch them. I haven't seen them. I just grab them as I go. So, yeah, so it's definitely going to be the same one, right? Yeah. So there you go. And we got this from the White House. President Trump participates in a Medal of Freedom ceremony for Charlie Kirk. This is the entire video. If you're interested in watching the whole thing, you can go straight to the White House, their X account. You can go visit there. It was posted at 4:36 p.m. today, October 14th, of course. Or I will repost it if you want to check it on my account. It's in the description below. It's at Spaethon, Spaethon. It's the same as my YouTube name, except with an N as in November at the end. All right, and I've got this from Attorney General Pamela Bondi. It was an honor to witness the beautiful Erika Kirk accept the Presidential Medal of Freedom on behalf of her husband, Charlie Kirk. There is no one more deserving of this honor. Happy birthday, Charlie. We miss you every day. And she's replying to the White House. President Donald J. Trump posthumously awards Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom, a true American patriot. So let's see if
Today we're
played
here
this yet.
to honor and remember a fearless warrior for liberty, beloved leader who galvanized the next generation like nobody I've ever seen before, and an American patriot of the deepest conviction, the finest quality and the highest caliber, the late, great Charlie Kirk. He was assassinated in the prime of his life for boldly speaking the truth, for living his faith and relentlessly fighting for a better and stronger America. He loved this country. And that's why this afternoon it's my privilege to posthumously award Charles James Kirk, our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Thank you.
Yeah, they definitely don't give those out every day. Definitely deserved, 100% deserved. Andrew Colvett, the Charlie Kirk Show will be live from the historic cash room at the U.S. Treasury Department. We will be joined by Secretary Scott Bessent to discuss rooting out Antifa's funding network and getting Gen Z to believe again in the American dream. So, don't really feel like really it's the right time to criticize, getting Gen Z to believe in the American dream again, but economically, it is fitting it being the Treasury Department. Probably more of an argument for the Fed, but the whole American dream that everybody is aware of is owning their own house, and that's something most Americans aspire to at least try to pursue, if not fulfill. And we're not really at a point in our country where that's really possible for the vast majority of Gen Z. So I hope that at least they discuss that, and if there's anything that they can do to... Well, there's plenty they can do. They're freaking Treasury Department, for crying out loud. So, yeah, that's definitely something major to tackle for them. But anyway, it was on there. I checked to see if they posted a link. They didn't post a link. So honestly, I'm not sure exactly. Here, let me see if I can just grab a link while I got this in front of me. And yeah, if it'll load. don't know if it'll have just clips or should have the whole thing on here. All right, here we go. 3 hours ago, hour and 11 minutes. I'll link this in the description if you want to check that out. Wait a minute. That's it. Hold on a second. No, that's the Medal of Freedom. Hold on. 11 days. Oh, wait. No, it's not on here. I figured it'd be on here. All right, hold on.
Patriot Mobile stands for faith.
All right, let's see if I can find it. Okay, I got it. I had YouTube on the mind, but yeah, that's, of course, charliekirkshow.com. And it is right here, Charlie's 32nd birthday, Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, with the broadcasting live from the Treasury Department prior to the Medal of Freedom ceremony. Several of Charlie's closest Washington friends joined, including Senator Mike Lee, EPA admin Lee Zeldin, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. They discuss how to crack down on Antifa and how to unleash the Gen Z American dream, and they read emails from the millions of people moved by Charlie's life and legacy. So I'll link that. I'm just going to link this whole page. Yeah, so if you want to check that out, that'll be in the description. And I will move on to the next topic. I've got a couple more from Charlie Kirk, I believe. Let's see. House Committee on Education and Workforce. And in an era when so many colleagues have become centers of left-wing indoctrination, Charlie fought to restore freedom of thought on our campuses. He inspired millions of Americans to courageously embrace freedom. His legacy will endure. And that's from House Republicans. They're replying to, today on his 32nd birthday, we honor Charlie Kirk, a happy warrior whose voice inspired millions of young Americans on this national... Oh, hold on. I think we already read this, right? On this National Day of Remembrance, our hearts still ache from the tragic and despicable act of violence that took him too soon. He was a joyful voice who never backed down, inspiring millions to embrace freedom and faith with courage and conviction. Will always carry the torch of his movement forward. I believe I read that already, but that's okay. Well, now you got it a second time. All right, so this is from Pete Hegseth. Moving on to the next segue. In the Caribbean Sea, the Southcom area of responsibility, they bombed another narco-terrorist vessel. I believe this is number 4. Maybe it's number 6 at this point. I know it's at least number 4. So anyway, let's check out the video of this. Them getting just the shit blasted out of them for trying to send drugs into the United States. There you have it. No drugs for them. No money for them. No payday for them. They should have thought twice. FAFO. Not too crazy about this footage, though. It must have been at night. I'm assuming it's at night. Okay, yeah, see, there you go. It's clearly at night. That's when they blew them up. So that would explain why it was in that type of footage that it was. What, like infrared or what have you. Looks like they're just sitting there. There's no wake or anything. Yeah, they were just sitting there. You could. I saw the reflection off the water. Wasn't really any movement happening. Man, that's absolutely crazy, man. They blew them up while they were just sitting there. I mean, hey, they were probably giving them warnings for hours. I mean, who knows? They don't really talk about any possible negotiations that happen before they carry out the strikes. But I'm assuming that they at least try to establish contact with them. I doubt they're just looking for random vessels out there and just blowing them out of the water one by one. Highly doubt that. All right, this is from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who posted Donald J. Trump's True Social. Under my standing authorities as Commander-in-Chief, this morning, the Secretary of War ordered a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel affiliated with a designated terrorist organization conducting narco-trafficking in the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility just off the coast of Venezuela. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was trafficking narcotics, was associated with illicit narco-terrorist networks, and was transiting along a known DTO route. The strike was conducted in international waters, and 6 male narco-terrorists aboard the vessel were killed in the strike. No U.S. forces were harmed. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So those drugs won't be arriving, needless to say. And we've got this from Senate Republicans. They're going to be replying to Ed Markey, Mr. Democrat. These are not civilians. They're designated terrorists. Why is Senator Markey defending narco-terrorists instead of American citizens? And he says, Trump just bombed 6 more people in the Caribbean for a total of 27 civilians who have been killed so far by the U.S. military. It's illegal for the military to target civilians who do not pose an immediate threat. This is murder. No, it's not murder, dude. They're transporting drugs that could easily kill millions and millions of Americans. In fact, over 100,000 Americans are killed by illegal drugs annually. I would say that qualifies as a pretty good reason, especially if they have intelligence that they've got drugs on the boat. and they are transporting it to the United States, assumingly. I mean, if they're just off the coast of Venezuela, look, if he made the argument that how do we really know that they were actually going to the United States? They could have been going to Central America. They could have gone to Jamaica. They might have been going to Aruba or the Lesser Antilles or Cuba. Like, how do we really know they were going to the United States? I mean, if he said that, I would say, well, you kind of got a point there. Maybe they weren't going to the United States, but he didn't make that point. He's just saying, let's not kill drug dealers. Let's let them do whatever they want, apparently. So anyway, it says U.S. military kills another 6 people in 5th Caribbean strike, Trump says. In his social media post, the president said the people aboard a boat were suspected of smuggling drugs for an unspecified group his team had labeled terrorists. All right, and the next one, rapid response. The Secretary of War on the Pentagon's press policies. The next segue. So the Department of War, they now require the press to, I believe they have to sign in when they first come in or something like that, but they're not allowed to roam the halls freely anymore. Their press badges have to be in plain view. So they've got a few changes, which surprised me why that wasn't already the status quo. But essentially, they now have the same requirements for the press at the Pentagon as they do for any other military installation. That's what Pete Hegseth said, that all we're doing is just making the Pentagon at the same level of rules as any other military installation across the country. And the press is all pissed off about it, and a lot of them wrote letters to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and also to the War Department saying that we don't agree with this. We're not going to sign this letter. So basically, their reporters are not going to be going to the Pentagon anymore because they don't want to adhere to those rules. Those very basic-ass rules. You got to wear your press pass. I mean, pretty simple shit. And you can't just wander anywhere you want in the Pentagon, anywhere you damn well please, because, there is kind of some, classified and top-secret shit going on in there. And I'm sure it has to do with all the leaks. I mean, they've been, leaking like a sieve for the last, 5 years, 6 years? Not just, pretty much all over the federal government. Of course, when Biden was in charge, there were leaks happening all over the place. So, sorry, mainstream media. You shouldn't have been reporting all this leaked shit, especially all this classified information that you were not allowed to do, but you just did it anyway. All right, Secretary of War on the Pentagon's press policies. Quote, it used to be, Mr. President, that the press could go pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. It's common sense stuff. We're trying to make sure national security is respected. Yeah, that should go without saying. Although, I don't know, man, I might push back on that and say that the CIA building would probably be more classified, but, what do I know?
Well, I very much appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip of Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply
it's
says
all about them.
Maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon. The most
fuck that.
Classified area in the world. Or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
Okay, so if he's talking about the most classified rooms, classified locations, square footage, the most classified area in the world, hands down, it would be the Pentagon for sure. All right, anyway, so we've got this from Secretary Scott Bessent from the Treasury. Javier Milei, the president of Argentina, is fighting 100 years of bad economic history and policy. President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center-right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. Let's take a listen to him.
The president is fighting 100 years of bad economic history.
And Javier Milei is here he is. He's over here on the right.
We're fighting bad.
He brought his wifey.
I thought he was talking about the U.S. president.
And there's a midterm election coming up. We think he's going to do quite well and then continue his reform agenda. Mr. President, as you said, President Obama had a big opportunity during his term, which he wasted. Many governments in Latin America went center-right, and the U.S. ignored them. We are not going to ignore our allies. It is economic strength. We're using our economic strength to create peace, just as you've done all over the world. And it is much better to form an economic bridge with our allies, people who want to do the right thing, than have to have shoot at narco gunboats. We think that this is an opportunity for the Argentinian people, and that President Milei is the one to do it. He's got a great cabinet. He's got a great team who we've worked with over the past weeks.
Yeah, and Secretary Vicente, what he's talking about is that we're going to do a currency exchange with Argentine pesos for USD, $20 billion USD worth. And I'm assuming that's supposed to help bolster their economy. And if their economy gets better and the peso gets more valuable, then of course our holdings of Argentine pesos will increase in value even above and beyond what we already gave them. So it's a win-win. Anyway, and I believe that wasn't his campaign when he first ran, didn't he run as MAGA also? MAGA, as in Make Argentina Great Again? I know that I've seen that somewhere. I don't know if that was just a meme or if that was actually one of his campaign slogans or whatever. All right, anyway, Congressman Dwight Evans, $20 billion of your tax dollars to bail out a foreign leader? But will Trump be there for the millions of hardworking Americans who are about to see their health care costs skyrocket without federal action? Which is completely the Democrats' fault, the healthcare bullshit. You could blame Obamacare for that. Anyway, so yours truly, it's a currency exchange goofball. As Argentina's economy continues ascending, that $20 billion value will only increase more on our end. Either you're ignorant or you're purposefully misleading. Probably the latter. Anyway, and he's replying to Aaron Rupar, reporter, your message to the American people of Argentina? Trump, we love them. We'll be there for them. They have a great leader, a very great leader.
Your message to the people of Argentina, please.
Love them. Be there for them. And have a great leader. A very great leader. Thank you. Be inside.
Yeah, I remember seeing him. When did he win? I think, what was it, in 2020? I think was when he won his election. I know it was at least a few years ago at this point, but he was a big Trump supporter when he was running. I remember he was crazy about Trump. All right, the White House. Argentine President Javier Milei presents Donald J. Trump with a letter nominating him for the Nobel Prize. And it's not a video, it's just an image. Looks like, yeah, they framed it. So he gave him a framed letter of his nomination for the Nobel Prize, which I assume might find its way possibly into Donald Trump's presidential library one day, maybe one of the hallways or something. All right, the White House, President Donald J. Trump and President of Argentina, Javier Milei. And you got that picture in the Oval Office. And I'm going to move on to the next thing. From Rapid Response once again, from Donald J. Trump's True Social. I believe that China purposefully not buying our soybeans and causing difficulty for our soybean farmers is an economically hostile act. We are considering terminating business with China having to do with cooking oil and other elements of trade as retribution. As an example, we can easily produce cooking oil ourselves. We don't need to purchase it from China. And that just begs the question, why the hell were we purchasing it from China anyway? Didn't they have to import all that grain in order to turn it into seed oil? Because I'm pretty sure China imports the vast majority of their seed crops, whether it's corn, soybean, wheat, all that stuff. They don't really grow a whole lot of crops in China. Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure if cooking oil is really going to do the job. I'm sure that it's probably not nearly as much money as what they were importing from the U.S. with regard to soybeans. But I think China is making a move for Brazil. I believe I read that somewhere, that they're going to start purchasing a lot more soybeans from them. I don't know, man. This whole trade war with China, it's about to start heating up. Come November 1st, it's going to start getting crazy because China, they're bottlenecking rare earth minerals, not just to the U.S., but to the entire world, especially the West. And any kind of rare earth minerals that China has more or less a monopoly on, I mean, that's how Trump worded it. They essentially have a monopoly on a lot of these rare earth minerals that we use for manufacturing, for electronics, and a lot of things. And that's not gonna go well. So fortunately, we're under Trump's presidency, and a lot of mining for rare earth minerals has already been underway with speculation and actual digging for it for months now. So hopefully we've already got a head start on that. And this is from Bad Hombre. Shifting gears once more, Democrats are physically incapable of typing, "Thank you, President Trump." What a disgraceful bunch. So I know they're kind of hard to read, but I've got these from these different Democrats, and I will, oh man, see, it almost wanted to get bigger for me. Almost, but it didn't, damn it. All right, but anyway, I'm going to repost it if you want to take a look at it, but I'm going to read some of these. And I did Elizabeth Warren yesterday. So we've got Adam Schiff. I'm relieved to see families reuniting today in Israel as Hamas has fully released the remaining Israel hostages after more than 700 days of horrible captivity. May this important and overdue moment pave the way to a full and lasting end to these years of bloodshed. No credit to Trump. And who else do we got? Mark Warner. So after more than 700 days of anguish, every living hostage has finally been freed by Hamas. Their return home is a moment of relief and renewed hope. May this be the start of healing for families and a step toward lasting peace in the region. No credit to Trump. And then we've got Nancy Pelosi. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas and the release of all hostages gives hope for what comes next after unbearable suffering. We must now ensure full humanitarian access in Gaza and a path to a two-state solution where Israelis and Palestinians can live in security and dignity. No credit to Trump. Rep. Eric Swallowswell. Home, so happy to hear this news. May this 2-year nightmare finally end. Kept his extra short. Richard Blumenthal. I am filled with joy and relief by release of the hostages, even as my heart breaks for families whose loved ones have perished. I fervently hope this momentous day, the still fragile ceasefire and ongoing talks will lead to lasting peace with humanitarian aid beginning right away. And Kathy Hochul. For more than 2 years, we've prayed for the return of the hostages kidnapped by Hamas on October 7th. Today, those prayers have been answered and families are reunited. I join the world in hoping that today marks the beginning of a lasting peace in the region. Senator Chris Coons, a day long overdue. I'm overjoyed that the remaining living hostages have been released and are finally being reunited with their loved ones. No credit to Trump. No credit. No credit. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz from my state. As a Jewish mother and a member of Congress representing a large Jewish community with many families impacted by the Hamas attack, my heart is full after 2 years of daily grief for so many, and to see the living hostages finally return. No credit. And then Richie Torres, after 2 years of abduction and torture, every living hostage is finally home. Those who were taken on October 7th will outlast the terror organization that tore them from their families and homes and unleashed a war of untold suffering. Against all odds, the timeless call to let my people go has been answered. No credit to Trump. And yeah, so Democrats are physically incapable of typing "Thank you, President Trump." What a disgraceful bunch. Now, the only Democrat that I saw that did give credit to President Trump was, I believe it was Dick Durbin, who's the Senate Minority Whip. He did give credit to Trump, to be fair. And then he had some like backhanded remark at the end, something about like, now all we need is just to engage in this level of diplomacy and get the government reopened. I'm like, dude, that's all on y'all. Y'all got to get the government reopened. Republicans didn't add anything to the CR bill. They got nothing to negotiate. There isn't anything to negotiate. It's just, that's it. I mean, that's all we got. We got a whole bunch of bullshit that Democrats want to try to add to the bill, and we have the same CR bill that was passed 13 times in the past. They didn't add a single freaking thing to it. Nothing whatsoever. So we're waiting, Democrats. But anyway, I'll get to that in a little bit. I don't have a whole lot on the government shutdown because I know I've been going on about it every day. But frankly, when it comes to covering the federal government on social media, there isn't a whole lot else they're talking about, especially individual members of Congress. That's pretty much all that they're talking about, just on repeat. But anyway, I do have a few mentions, a few updates with regard to, I think it might have been the Treasury Department, Department of Transportation. They were talking about, I don't think that was regarding the shutdown, though. They were talking about the illegal immigrant truckers. But anyway, I got a few things to get into later on with regard to that. So the Loftus Party, and he did all of this on a federal holiday without pay during a government shutdown. Thank you, President Trump. And I read all that yesterday. This is the individual items that President Trump did on his schedule when he went over to Israel and then to Egypt. So quite a lot that he did in one day. And it was like 4:30 in the morning Eastern time, and he was already giving his speech in front of Israel. He was already there giving his speech. It was like crazy early. And then he finally showed up, which I'll get to here in a second. He showed up like crazy late at night after that whole day was over. So this is from C.J. Pearson, Watch, to my Gen Z peers who have spent the last 2 years siding with you or with Hamas on our college campuses and chanting Free Palestine, I hope you realize you have President Trump to thank. He just did in 10 months what Biden couldn't do in 4 years. Blessed are the peacemakers. Hear what he has to say.
Free Palestine this, free Palestine that. Well, Donald Trump just did that. Are you going to thank him? I know that those on the left are a little slow, so I'm going to say it one more time. Free Palestine this, free Palestine that. Donald Trump just did that. Are you going to thank him? Because Donald Trump just did, in 10 months, what Joe Biden could not do in 4 years. Y'all called him unconventional. Y'all called him unpresidential. Well, now, the only thing y'all ought to be calling him is a peacemaker. It's exactly
100%.
what he is.
Well, not only that, but Donald Trump did something that if Democrats were in charge for the next 10 years, they wouldn't have done that. No effing way they would have done that. Fuck out of here. All right, Colin Rugg. Late last year, The View's Alyssa Farah promised to wear a MAGA hat on the show if President Trump got the Israeli hostages out. Can you believe that? Quote, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say thank you for doing it. Well, then do it, Alyssa Farah. Do you think she's going to do it? I have a feeling maybe she probably won't, but maybe we'll be wrong.
I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic. It's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
oh, good grief. Okay, so when somebody proposes that question to her, then I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of, no, I'm not going to do that. It wasn't Trump. It was everybody else. Trump just took all the credit. All right, Bridget Fertig. Liberals, after spending the last 2 years screaming to free Palestine, now realizing they have to thank President Trump for freeing Palestine. I love that clip. That clip never gets old. Which, of course, was the day that it was announced that President Trump won the election in 2016. And they had a meltdown of all meltdowns that day. That was glorious. All right, anyway, the great Yvonne replying to real Donald Trump, free Palestine, just did. Oh, I'm pissed off. And yeah, he freed Palestine. All right, OG MAGA Canman, you didn't do squat. Thank you, President Trump. Democrats are the enemy. Trump just showed the world that Hamas is easier to negotiate with than Democrats. Let that sink in. Yeah, absolutely. And from Patricia, President Trump's epic arrival in Israel, fighter jets escorting him along with Qatar jets as Air Force One neared Israel. A massive thank you. President Trump appeared on Tel Aviv beach. President Trump received a standing ovation at Israel's Knesset. Forever, President Trump will be known as the peace president. Check this out. This is from the ground. Counting what, 12 fighter jets? Actually, maybe 13. Yeah, that's badass. That was cool. U.S. Air Force. Landed in Israel. Yeah, there it is. They had that on the beach ready for him when they flew by. And I actually showed the video from inside Air Force One yesterday of that exact image that was on the ground. Oh, hell, I didn't know they did that. That's crazy. Using all those lit up drones. Doing his YMCA dance. Wow, man, with Mount Rushmore with Trump on it. Hell yeah. That was cool, man. I don't know if that was AI or if they actually did that. It looked legit. All right. So this one from Tori Lauren, the left, bigot, racist, misogynist, fascist, warmonger will create chaos. Trump freed the Israeli hostages after 2 years, freed Palestine, and facilitated peace in the Middle East. The truth will set you free. Thank your president today. From the Jerusalem Post. God bless the peacemaker. Yeah, I have a feeling that they're not really going to be giving him credit. Anyway, this is from Donald J. Trump's account. Almost 350,000 likes.
We gather on a day of profound joy, of soaring hope, of renewed faith, and above all, a day to give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It should now be clear to everyone throughout the region that decades of fomenting terrorism and extremism jihadism and anti-Semitism have not worked. They've been a disaster. They've just killed. They've killed. From Gaza to Iran, those bitter hatreds have delivered nothing but misery, suffering, failure, and death. Through glory and heartache, we have built industries together. We have made discoveries together.
The Republican
We
Guard.
have confronted evil together, and we have waged war together. And perhaps, most beautifully of all, we have made peace together. And this week, against all odds, we have done the impossible and brought our hostages home. The God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good. Together we've shown that peace is not just a hope that we can dream about, it's a reality. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace. This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. With the historic agreement we've just signed, those prayers of millions have finally been answered.
There you go, man. Hell of a big day. Huge day yesterday. And we've got phase 2 begins right now. Phase 2 begins. All 20 hostages are back and feeling as good as can be expected. The big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done. The dead have not been returned as promised. Phase 2 begins right now. President Donald J. Trump. And we'll see what happens. So that's probably, unless anything major comes up, which I'm sure there's going to be news that's going to be coming up with regard to rebuilding Palestine and all that. So I'm sure I'll probably come across, information as time goes on, which I'll talk about it if it's something important to talk about. So anyway, I'll move on to the next thing. Secretary Doug Burgum, at the president, he expertly used America's economic leverage, military power, and energy abundance to facilitate peace in the Middle East. Okay, so that's still related. This was a masterclass in peace through strength leadership. And we'll give this a play.
It's incredible what President Trump has accomplished. It's a masterclass in peace through strength. What he did earlier this year, his willingness to use military power, his willingness to deploy economic power through the use of tariffs, but also his understanding of energy diplomacy. President Trump, many presidents that preceded him would never have had the ability to put a strike against Iran because of our dependence on Mideast supplies for oil. But when President Trump, was asking the question, what's going to happen to the price of oil if we go after Iran's nuclear program, the answer was nothing, because the U.S. was not dependent on that. So on any of that energy coming from that area. So the energy abundance, the energy dominant strategy that President Trump is pursuing is giving him degrees of freedom that presidents haven't had in the past. And that's why you're seeing this incredible peace agreement and seeing peace break out all over the Middle East is because he understands how to use these levers of power.
Oh, well, hell yeah, man. I mean, it's awesome. I'm sure he's got a lot of great advisors too, and I think a lot of that helped with, ironically, with them handling the 2020 election in the way that they did, and Trump losing, because I bet that gave him 4 years to really build for his second term. I bet he really used that time to an immense advantage. So, and if he just won 2020, it just would have coasted into a second term, and I don't think he would have been nearly as effective as he turned out to be with this current term. I mean, it's been absolutely incredible so far this year. All right, and Department of State, the president of peace. 8 wars ended in 8 months. President Trump, the president of peace. President Trump ended 8 wars in just 8 months. From Cambodia and Thailand and Kosovo and Serbia, Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, also Pakistan and India, and Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and just now Israel and Hamas. Way to go, President Trump. And from Dan Scavino, at 2:54 a.m. Eastern, President Trump is finally wheels down on the South Lawn at the White House after returning from a historic trip to Israel and Egypt. That was a hell of a long day for President Trump. This is almost 24 hours after he was given that speech in Israel. Like 22, 23 hours later. So yeah, hell of a big day. All right, so moving on to, it looks like the government shutdown now from Speaker Mike Johnson. Are Democrats suggesting they want to go to court to stop paychecks from being issued to our troops? Yeah, would that surprise anybody to hear that? It wouldn't surprise me. Bring it on. I'm grateful for a commander-in-chief who is prioritizing the brave men and women serving in our military, even while Democrats are working and voting repeatedly to block their hard-earned pay. So President Trump and Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, they were able to allocate funds that were directed to the Pentagon. Not sure exactly where it was directed to or what it was to be used for, but they were able to route those funds that were already earmarked for the Pentagon, and they're using those funds to pay the troops. And they're going to do that in the meantime. I guess either until those funds run out or until they reopen the government. Not exactly sure. They didn't say exactly how much money it was, at least not from what I read. I just know that that's where they're getting it from. And yeah, it looks like Democrats are really pissed off about it. It's like, what? I don't understand, man. I don't even know who the hell is even in control of the Democratic Party. Even apparently Democrats don't even know.
My understanding of this is they have every right to move the funds around, duly appropriated dollars from Congress to the Department of Defense. There were some R&D accounts that had not been spent.
There you go. R&D.
My understanding is that's the money that's being used to pay the troops right now. If the Democrats want to go to court and challenge troops being paid, bring it, okay? I'm grateful for a commander-in-chief who understands the priorities of the country.
Yeah, please do that.
The necessity of national defense and the urgency that we all feel and have voted for 8 times. Republicans have voted in Congress 8 times now between House and Senate to fund the troops and pay federal workers in all these essential jobs and agencies, because we understand the necessity of that. Meanwhile, the Democrats voted 8 times to block their paychecks.
To block.
I'm grateful we have a president who is willing to step up and do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's great is that once the government gets reopened, I'm sure the funds that were spent from R&D to pay the troops could just be put right back into the R&D. Just make it full again. And this is from Rapid Response again. So the president on responding to the Democrat shutdown. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown. We're closing up programs that are Democrat programs, and we're going to have a list of them on Friday. So mark your calendars, y'all. I'm going to be going over that because it should be announced by the time that I do my show, which I usually start around 7, 8 o'clock at the latest. Being Friday, I'll probably get an earlier start. So anyway, closing up some of the most egregious socialist, semi-communist programs. And yeah, he is absolutely right, man. They are getting absolutely wrecked. I've shown on this show time and time again. I've shown Democrat accounts of the individual politicians. I've shown Senate Democrats, their official profile. The same with House Democrats as well. Post after post after post is just getting ratioed, meaning that they're getting a lot more comments than they're getting likes, which 99% of the time is really, really bad. Because it doesn't take any effort just to click the like button and just move on to the next post when you're scrolling. It actually takes a bit of effort for you to click on a comment and actually leave a comment. So people tend to leave negative comments over positive ones, especially when it comes to political matters. And yeah, man, they are getting absolutely wrecked. They still are, man, and it's been 2 weeks already. So this is from, oh wait, hold on. Actually, no, I don't think I'm playing.
Honestly,
here we
go. Put it
go.
in plain words for you. And you're a smart guy, so you'll understand.
Get a little ahead of myself.
People don't. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown because we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being able, and they're never going to come back in many cases. So we're being able to do things that we were unable to do before. So we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we wanted to close up or that we never wanted to happen. And now we're closing them up. And we're not going to let them come back. The Democrats are getting killed. And we're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs. And we're closing them up.
Well, and that's the problem with these stupid omnibus spending bills and these giant packages where they take 1,000 fucking bills and they pack them all into one single super bill. And they've been doing that for like, what, a couple of decades now at this point? And it's absolutely ridiculous, man. It should be one bill at a time. And then the politicians complain that, oh my God, that would take forever. It would take forever and a day. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That way we don't have to pass tons of shit that nobody really needs, which is where I'm sure the vast majority of these programs came from. They were buried in one of these annual bills that consist of thousands of pages that nobody reads, and millions of dollars get sent to this department, create that department, and it just goes to all kinds, countless billions of dollars going to a bunch of woke bullshit that we don't need, that benefits other countries, doesn't even benefit us at all. And now we're sitting in over $37 trillion in debt.
Closing up Republican programs because we think they work. So the Democrats are getting killed, but they're not telling the people about that. I say it, nobody, well, I haven't said it probably as bluntly as I just said it, but so we are closing up Democrat programs that we think that we disagree with, and they're never going to open again.
Oh shit, I was on mute. Yeah, God willing, man. I hope they don't fucking reopen again. So yeah, that's good. I've been waiting for that, man. I've been waiting for that for a couple of weeks. We all have to wait and see, because right from the get-go, President Trump made it pretty clear that once the government shut down, we're going to start looking at different areas of the government that we're going to start shutting down. We're going to start laying off a lot of people. And we've been waiting for it, but I'm sure they've been behind the scenes compiling a list. They've already let go thousands of employees. I believe the Department of Education was one of them. And the EPA, there were a lot of people that were laid off from the EPA. It was like 1,500 people from the EPA. There's already been a list that's been produced of the layoffs that have occurred so far. And they're permanent layoffs. And we're about to get a hell of a lot more come Friday. Can't wait to see what they're going to do with that. Downsizing the government. It always sucks when people lose jobs. Nobody is all for that. It sucks it has to be this way, but a lot of these positions, if not all of them, that they're looking to lay off shouldn't have even existed in the first place. With 3 million federal employees that are employed by the government, it is insanely overbloated, at least in my opinion. So Caroline Leavitt, Trump continues payments to troops. Bureaucrat layoffs. Administration will ride out the Democrats' intransigence. Oh my God, I can't say that word. All right, anyway, so this is from Breitbart. Trump continues payments to troops. And we've got the Trump administration. They will continue to pay troops and law enforcement and issue more reductions in force of federal bureaucrats as the Democrat shutdown continues. The White House Office of Management and Budget said on Tuesday, OMB is making every preparation to batten down the hatches and ride out the Democrats' intransigence. I don't even know, man. I am not familiar with that word. Words are hard sometimes. All right, pay the troops, pay law enforcement, continue the RIFs, reductions in force, and wait, OMB wrote on X. And that was today, 9:16 in the morning. As news outlets say that this Democrat shutdown could be one of the nation's longest, the Trump administration has moved to pay the nation's service members and law enforcement and continue reductions in force. The longest shutdown occurred in 2018 by the Democrats, no surprise, because of evil Orange Man, and it was 35 days. That's the longest government shutdown that we've ever had in American history. It was 35 days in length. As I've predicted, I think it's going to go way longer than that. A lot of Republican politicians believe that they are waiting for this stupid No Kings protest that's happening in D.C. I think it's this weekend. They think after that happens, after the Democrats have adequately virtue signaled to their far left base, then they will proceed to open up the government again. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to leave it shut down for potentially months on end. I don't know if they're going to strictly dig their heels in on the illegal immigrant aspect of the healthcare, but at the very least, they want these tax credits left over from the COVID era, the ACA tax credits, Affordable Care Act, to continue for the next 10 years. And it's going to cost, I believe it's $200 billion. That's what they want added to this CR bill. And I would say, in my opinion, COVID is over. It is completely over. And yeah, if health insurance is going to skyrocket for a lot of people, I'm sure it will, because it was already expensive when COVID started. So they came out with these tax credits to artificially lower the cost of healthcare for some people who benefited from it. I didn't. I'm sure most of us didn't. I mean, most of us are stuck having to pay private insurance. And now that it's been 5 years and COVID's no longer an issue, they're going to expire. And of course, their rates are going to go right back up to where they were at the beginning, plus whatever the inflation rate, whatever it's going to be now. So, and of course, they're blaming Republicans for it, even though we're talking Obamacare here. So let's see. As news outlets say, all right, hold on. Like during a typical government shutdown, federal workers are furloughed and do not receive pay. However, the Trump administration has moved to issue RIFs that eliminate a position within the morass of the federal government. Initial reports have found that the Trump administration has already swiftly issued roughly 4,600 RIFs across many major departments of the federal government, including the Commerce Department, Education Department, Energy Department, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Homeland Security, and the Treasury Department. I'm pretty sure environmental is going to be in. Yeah, I don't know. I know I read that somewhere, but I guess I've been wrong before. So the following defendant agencies began issuing RAF notices related to the lapse in approved, what does this say? Approval or approved? Appropriations today, October 10th, to approximately the following number of employees. So it's right here on your screen if you want to take a look at that. Pause the video for a second and then read that. So it's in at least, 3,000 roughly employees? Actually, didn't they mention almost 4,000? Something like that, but all right. Anyway, so quote, the president through OMB has determined that agencies should operate more efficiently and has directed them to consider steps to optimize their workforces in light of the ongoing lapse in appropriations, the Justice Department wrote in a legal filing. Quote, these RIF numbers from the court filing are just a snapshot in time. More RIFs are coming, end quote, an OMB spokesman said. Democrats decided to shut down the government because they think free health care for illegal aliens is more important than the American people, White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson said. And Chuck Schumer may think every day of the shutdown gets better for the radical left, but the American people disagree, she added. President Trump is working hard to mitigate the pain caused by the Democrats by finding solutions to pay the military and fund other critical services that the Democrats couldn't care less about. At least it would seem that they wouldn't. And just the fact that Mike Johnson is mentioning the possibility of a court case coming up from paying the troops, it just leads me to believe that they're obviously talking about it. They're obviously weighing the pros and cons with regard to that. And since the Democrats, they've got a long history of doubling down and doubling down. Wouldn't surprise me if they do that. So this is from Secretary Sean Duffy. Talk about heroes. The tower is fully staffed with air traffic controllers who are working without pay at BWI Airport. And that is Baltimore, Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport. And Sean Duffy, by the way, he's the Secretary of Transportation. These are patriotic Americans working hard while the Democrats play politics with a government shutdown. And we have Rep. Scott Fitzgerald. Since day one, we've all known what this Democrat shutdown is really about. Senator Schumer trying to fend off a primary. The House passed a clean CR last month to prevent a shutdown. This could end today if Senate Democrats, like Senator Baldwin, stopped the partisan posturing.
What's your sense of this government shutdown and its impact in America?
Well, Maria, I think as we sit here today, what you're seeing is kind of a fracture in the message that's coming out of the U.S. Senate from the Democrats. They all want to kind of wrap their arms around this healthcare piece. But the fact of the matter is there's about 10 different ideas on how that should happen, which is the point of what Republicans have been saying since this started is let's go back to the clean CR, look at November 21st as a date in which, we're going to have some breathing room to actually possibly look at some of these issues. But healthcare itself is such a massive, expansive topic that you would have a difficult time coming up with anything that, first of all, could make it out of the Senate, but let alone could be passed by the House. So,
well, and especially with throwing money at it, that's their only solution. Let's throw another $200 billion at healthcare. That'll fix the problem. Let's just keep cutting blank checks to the insurance companies and to the healthcare providers, as if that's really going to fix the problem. All it's going to do is just drive it up more and more and more endlessly. And I'm no expert. I don't know exactly how they're going to fix the healthcare situation, short of putting like price caps on healthcare goods and services. Instead of charging $8,000 for a CT scan, maybe you should charge about, $400 for a CT scan, since it only costs a facility like $200 to make one, or something like something like that. But I know price fixing is not something that we want to get into. That is extremely dangerous. That's something that communist countries are involved in doing often. And I don't have all the answers. I just know that they are charging like 100 times more for certain goods and services in the healthcare industry than they really are. They're profiting like 100x, 150x on some services, and it's absolutely brutally insane, man.
I think there is a little bit of a shift going on, and I think even my own Senator Tammy Baldwin has had 5 different messages on what she thinks should be negotiated on the other side. And I think that's something that's changing quickly.
Yeah, I mean, is this really about health care, or is this about a fight to show that the Democrats are tough against President Trump? I was told that they're going to continue this. The government will be shut down all week this week until they have that so-called No King's March in Washington
I think it'll be longer
next weekend. And Chuck Schumer wants to get at that podium and talk about how he fought Trump at this No King's March.
Of course they're going to do that.
Do you think this is about the actions, or is this really about the Democrats wanting those Obamacare subsidies?
No, I mean, of course they want the Obamacare subsidies, and they're blaming Republicans on the reason why healthcare is so expensive when it's completely their fault. They have to own the entire thing. Of course they're not, because Democrats, they just accuse the other side of what they're already guilty of doing. And that's probably literally the only card that they can play is that, well, healthcare is out of control and we've got the tax credits expiring in November. I guess we'll just dig our heels in on that and just carry that as far as we can possibly take it, which is, it's absolutely ridiculous for them to blame the Republicans for it, because anybody who's paid any attention to politics, they know that the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, is Obamacare. And that's something that the Democrats proudly passed. And it's been a while, but if my memory serves, I don't think a single Republican voted for Obamacare. I don't think a single one did. It was completely the Democrats who did that. And turns out, yeah, the Republicans were right. Healthcare got absolutely insanely expensive, and everybody's health insurance policies went just brutally expensive. And it's been the case for years at this point. I mean, if you remember back to pre-Obamacare, like go back to the 2000s, man, like our health insurance is like what, 150, maybe $200 a month. And it was stellar compared to where it is now. Didn't have to pay these massive deductibles. It was just simple co-pays. It was so nice. And they completely fucked it all up.
Well, that's the thing. It's disheartening to see some of these U.S. senators kind of falling in line when we all know what this is about.
Yeah.
This is about Chuck
Power.
Schumer.
It's all about power.
Last time in March, in the spring, when we did
and
the
temper
CR,
tantrums,
that he touched the stove and the stove was hot, and now he can't kind of swallow this and say, "Hey, it's time to capitulate." Whether that's one U.S. senator at a time voting aye on the CR, or whether it's him unleashing kind of everyone to just vote the way they want. It's been about that since day one, and I think that's what we're continuing to see.
Yeah, and I bet it won't be the last time that they shut down the government during Trump's administration, too. I bet they're going to do it probably again, and then maybe even again. All right, House Democrats. Republicans control the House. They control the Senate and even the White House. They own this shutdown. This is a Republican shutdown. So, and one of their ratioed posts, 5,700 likes. It's actually pretty close, but it is still ratioed. 5,900 comments, so they got more comments than they got likes. And that's something House Democrats, time and time again, that's what's been happening on their profile. From yours truly, this is proof Democrats wholeheartedly believe their entire constituency possesses low IQ levels. 60 votes are needed in the Senate. This is why they repeat democracy, to keep their voters dumb and blind. And yep, 100% stand by that one. Anyway, I haven't actually checked this in about a week, but when I was checking it, they were just like every single thing was a ratio. Yep, see, here's one, 327 to 681. That's 2-1. That's from Hakeem Jeffries. Even his profile, if I go to his profile, the same thing. Ratio. And 93-55, that one's not, which, of course, they're not all going to be. See, that one's not either. But it also probably depends on exactly where it's coming from. Democratic Women's Caucus. With regard to the shutdown, they've primarily been getting ratioed a lot. So House Democrats, 935, pretty close, but no cigar there. House Democrats, 2515, nope, not again. And it's possible that people they're just kind of losing interest at this point because it's been shut down for 2 weeks now. But that one got ratioed. October 13th. Oh yeah, the Indigenous Peoples Day. So that's not related to the shutdown, but let's see, that one was ratioed related to the shutdown. But anyway, yeah, you get the idea. So I guess I could just check out Hakeem Jeffries real quick. He's pretty much exclusively been talking about the shutdown because he's Schumer's right-hand man in the Senate. So that's about all he seems to have been talking about lately. Yep, the shutdown right there. Ratio 2-1. And that one 3-1. Damn. And same thing, 3-1 basically. Another ratio. I mean, it's like one after the next, man. Oh, look at that. He barely got more likes than comments on that one. That one got ratioed. Another one. Almost, but no cigar there. And anyway, so yeah, again, you get the idea there. So yeah, they are not winning this government shutdown. I would say the majority of the American people are not on their side on this. So, all right. And speaking of the devil, Hakeem Jeffries, can Republicans be trusted to fix the healthcare crisis they have created? Hell no.
Well, there's definitively no reason to ever trust the Republicans, particularly as it relates to the healthcare issue and the Affordable Care Act. These are people
they didn't
who
vote
have
for
now
it.
tried more than 70 different times over the last 15 years to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
Well, could you blame them? It wrecked our insurance industry, you asshole.
And so there's no reasonable basis to conclude that if they simply give their word as it relates to dealing with the Affordable Care Act tax credits, that they'll actually move toward a legislative resolution.
Isn't that hilarious, man? It just goes to show how little they actually have. No wonder it got ratioed 3-1. All right, Congressman Troy E. Nels. This is what Democrats want to spend Americans' hard-earned tax dollars on. $24.6 million to climate resilience in Honduras. $13.4 million to civic engagement in Zimbabwe. $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Balkans. And $2.9 million to desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. Are you fucking kidding me? And then $2 million to organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. Just insanity. And replying to the Blaze, Speaker Johnson lists off insane Democrat demands to end the government shutdown, and they go through it. Let's see, how long is this? I'll give it a play. It's less than a minute.
And they would send $500 million to liberal news outlets.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't on the list. Yeah, they want to send $500 million back to the public broadcasting. What was it, PBS and, oh, fuck, what was the other one? I can't remember the other one. Anyway, the other big one. And, yeah, I mean, this was all negotiated during the spring and early summer with the one big, beautiful bill that cut all the funding for public broadcasting. So this was already debated between the Republicans and the Democrats in the House and the Senate, because Democrats, they're claiming that, no, this was never negotiated. We didn't agree to that. Yeah, you might not have agreed to it, but it's still negotiated to. I mean, that's politicking for you. Anyway.
By refunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It would also restore up to $5 billion of American taxpayer funds for wasteful spending for international projects. Here's a couple of examples. This is
USAID.
In their legislation, their counterproposal on the CR to keep the lights open. This is what they want to do. They want to spend $24.6 million of your hard-earned dollars as a taxpayer
here we go.
for climate resilience in Honduras. They want to spend $13.4 million for civic engagement in Zimbabwe. They want to send $3.9 million for LGBTQI plus democracy grants in the Western Balkans. They want to spend $2.9 million of your dollars for desert locust risk reduction in the Horn of Africa. And $2 million for, quote, organizing for feminist democratic principles in Africa. We are not doing that.
Oh, thank God. No, we're not doing that. That's ridiculous. In this economy, with the middle class suffering as much as we are right now, hell no, man. All right, Rapid Response 47, the president on the Democrats, they have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away $1.5 trillion with a T to people that come into the country illegally. Well, not exactly. They want to give healthcare to illegal immigrants by the millions. Yeah, that part they do. They're not asking for $1.5 trillion exclusively for healthcare for illegal immigrants. They're looking for up to $200 billion for to extend the tax credits for 10 years, which will include healthcare to illegal immigrants. And one of the big talking points that Democrats are leaning on is saying that we're not doing that at all. We don't have anything in there that says, look, they say non-citizens. That's how they word it. They don't say illegal immigrants in these 57 pages that they want added to the CR bill. And plus, there's also the very common occurrence where the illegal immigrants will get healthcare services on the state level, and then the federal government reimburses the state because they lobbed the illegal immigrants in with everybody else. Because I guess all 50 states, some way or another, they get reimbursed, at least in part, by the federal government for healthcare. So it's very convoluted. So anyway, just to correct the record, I'll correct it.
That's why they keep the government laws. They have a shutdown based on nonsense. They want to give away think of it, they want to give away $1.5 trillion to people that come into the country illegally. And as you know, the borders now are closed. But when they hear that they get the greatest health care package in the world and they have no money, but they're living okay in another country, they head up and they start forming caravans and they try and come into our country. But the big problem is they want to give health care to people that should not get health care.
Absolutely
want to
not.
Health care to illegal immigrants by the millions.
They have
Look
been.
at Gavin Newsom, what he's done. He's
They don't
ruined
want to. They
California.
have
He gives
been.
health care to anybody. And I guess they do it for votes. I actually think it's bad politics, but I guess they do it for votes.
Yeah, they do it for votes. That's it. It's for short-term power. Because if they give healthcare to illegal immigrants, that's going to incentivize a lot of illegal immigrants, especially the ones with pre-existing conditions, which are really going to cost an arm and a leg to our insurance industry, to come up to America by the millions. Imagine not just getting the healthy, able-bodied illegal immigrants. We're going to be getting all of the sick, the terminally ill, the ones with, I don't know, like diabetes and all these other conditions. Those are going to be probably the majority of illegal immigrants we would end up with. All right, so U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Looks like we're shifting gears here. So do you know who you're protesting for? Hardened criminals, including TDA, Tren de Aragua members, child rapists, and fentanyl dealers. That's who we're going to keep taking off the streets of your communities, period.
No, they are protesting the men and women of ICE doing their lawful law enforcement mission. And the people that are in those vehicles aren't innocent individuals. Those are some hardened criminals that have been hiding in Chicago in plain sight. Much like Chief Bovino said, we've arrested Tren de Aragua gang members that are members now of a foreign terrorist organization, child rapists, fentanyl dealers. I don't understand why these people want to lobby and advocate and protest, if you will, for known criminals. It just makes no sense. No,
It's absolutely insane, man. It's absolutely insane. Because they're saying it's illegal immigrants in general. They're kidnapping and disappearing undocumented American citizens, or however the fuck they were wording it these days. All right, U.S. Department of Labor, unprecedented crackdown. Despite the lapse in funding, we're continuing our work on Project Firewall and ensuring companies hire American. That's from Blaze Media. Project Firewall, the Department of Labor targets visa sponsors in unprecedented H-1B enforcement crackdown. I'm not sure if they linked the article. Sometimes they do, and it didn't look like they did. But yeah, anyway, I came across that, figured it was worth mentioning. But yeah, it's through the Department of Labor. And we've got Homeland Security allowing illegal aliens to obtain commercial driver's licenses to operate 18-wheelers and transport hazardous materials on America's roads is reckless and incredibly dangerous to public safety. DHS is working with U.S. Department of Transportation to root out and prevent illegal aliens from obtaining these licenses from sanctuary jurisdictions that put American drivers and passengers in danger.
Last week, Vivek Sharma went to the DMV to renew his trucking license, but he was denied.
No go.
The problem? New rules surrounding the process.
Illegal.
जिनके पास ग्रीन कार्ड है या सिटीजन है उनका ही चलेगा.
No, you got to speak English.
As he explains in Hindi, only green card holders and U.S. citizens can get their commercial driver's license renewed. Sharma's been in the U.S. legally for the past 10 years, seeking political asylum. His final court case is next year. He's been driving a truck for the past 8 years, but now he can't.
Yeah, because you have to speak proficient English now.
अभी क्या कुछ local job देखेंगे?
When asked what comes next, he says
Obviously
he's
he
worried.
can't.
Trucking paid well. The sudden stop in income means he won't have money to send back to his family in
Yeah,
India.
paid well for them.
Now he will have to start over. The U.S. Department of Transportation issued emergency rules that require the DMV to stop issuing commercial driver's licenses, or CDLs, to drivers who are not U.S. citizens or permanent residents. Even those with legal work visas, like Sharma, will be denied. It says it's doing so to improve traffic safety and close loopholes in the law.
And it was paying well for them because they sleep in their trucks, they live in their trucks, and they were undercutting American truckers. And they were taking a lower rate per mile. And now that they are getting the illegal immigrant truckers out of the industry, they are now, in real time, they're seeing an increase in per mile rates that are being offered to independent truck drivers. So those who are have an open contract or whatever, they're reaching out and they're offering higher and higher rates now because they don't have the illegal immigrant truckers to go to for cheap transportation now. All right, from the White House, the greatest love story, Democrats and criminal illegal aliens. Day 14 of Democrats holding our government hostage over free health care for illegal aliens.
I have done nothing wrong, ever, in my life.
I know this. And I love you.
I love you too, Daddy. Money, please! My money.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that. If that's a popular TV show, I have no idea what that is. But anyway, Homeland Security Operation Midway Blitz is making Illinois safe again. DHS law enforcement has made over 1,500 arrests across Illinois, including pedophiles, vicious gang members, and armed robbers. President Trump and Secretary Noam will not allow criminal illegal aliens to terrorize our cities. And Secretary Noam, she is, of course, the Secretary of Homeland Security. We'll check this out. Oh, they're going to get you. Got him. Another one.
Let me call somebody. That's it. What's going on? What is going on? Hey.
Uh-oh.
I will arrest you.
I was saying, you're going to jail too. And he's getting arrested. All right. Heading on to the next one. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, listening to Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons, disclosed the intel that triggered the multi-agency raid on the Chicago apartment complex. Also, a response to accusations of racial profiling and challenging city leaders to turn over violent criminal aliens to ICE instead of releasing them into the community, which they've been doing for years and years. Ever since they declared themselves sanctuary states, they've been doing just that. If an illegal immigrant gets arrested and thrown in jail, what the sanctuary state will do is release them before ICE has a chance to come and pick them up. So this one's a bit long, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. It was on AM 560, Chicago's Morning Answer. So I figured I'd give it a little bit of a listen.
Acting ICE Director. Todd, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
You know, pick a big city mayor, any big city mayor. It's sort of the same story in terms of the that party's representatives at the mayoral and in states like Oregon, Illinois, gubernatorial level. They are quietly thankful that ICE is removing repeat violent offenders in this country illegally from the streets, but they won't acknowledge it. And not only will they not acknowledge it, they'll turn right around and call you terrorists and racists, as our governor has.
Yeah, that's a frustrating thing. Even before I was the acting director, when I was a field level leader, we'd run into elected officials that always want to thank us quietly. They'd recognize exactly what we were doing, yet leave that meeting and then go ahead and go scorched earth on us in the media. We're used to it. I love the fact that the mayor called it an ICE-free zone. The fact of the matter is, ICE has been doing immigration enforcement and criminal law enforcement since its inception back in 2003. And we've been in Chicago, and we've been making significant impacts, even before January 20th. So what's frustrating for me is the fact that, I see every day, we put out in the media every day, the heinous criminal aliens that we've arrested in Chicago and in Illinois in general, yet that falls on deaf ears, right? And all they're focused on is protesting at our facilities. It's really frustrating for us.
Well, it's more.
Yeah, I can only imagine. But anyway, I'll repost that if you want to check out the rest of that. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I've always been a fan of talk radio. I mean, I've always, like my whole adult life, my local talk radio is 970 WFLA, which I used to listen to all the time. And yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, that actually reminds me of the movie Pineapple Express when they were hanging out in Seth Rogen's car, and they fell asleep listening to the radio, which is talk radio, and they woke up the next day and the battery was dead. And they're like, oh man, the battery's dead. Yeah, we were listening to talk radio. Oh no, talk radio. Oh my God, dude. So boring. Car committed suicide, man. All right, anyway, Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Today, following outreach from the Justice Department, Facebook removed a large group page that was being used to dox and target ICE agents in Chicago. Uh-oh, where did it go? Oh, it jumped. The wave of violence against ICE has been driven by online apps and social media campaigns designed to put ICE officers at risk for doing their jobs. The Department of Justice will continue engaging tech companies to eliminate platforms where radicals can incite imminent violence against federal law enforcement. So that's good. It's good that Facebook made a move. I mean, I'm sure they did it by force. You know, you'd think that Facebook would police their platform a little better. Anyway, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, just as U.S. Treasury led the effort after 9/11 to track terrorist financing, it will follow the money behind violent domestic networks. We will expose domestic terrorists and bring them to justice. This is on the Charlie Kirk show today.
They have a right to organize. They have a right to protest, but they have to do it peacefully. They cannot embrace violence, and we have seen it. We've seen it since the terrible day 2 years ago, the anti-Semitism and the bias that came out after October 7th, 2023. And many of these organizations have been financed by nonprofits, and it's going to stop. And we are going to, as they always say, follow the money. When you see these groups where all the signs match, they have hundreds of the same umbrellas that they're using. You know, after they cause the mayhem, they have the same lasers that they're using to blind our police force. You know, how are they constructed? Because
they've been doing that a lot the last few days.
It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of organization, and we are going to do that. We have started to compile lists, put together networks, and you know, there's a long record here. And we don't know how much of the support's coming in from overseas. We don't know how much being supported by U.S. nonprofits, you know, C3s that give money to C4s. But this is mission critical for us now, just as after 9/11 and Osama bin Laden, the ultimate culprit, was captured. We are operationalizing this here at Treasury, and we are going to track down who is responsible for this. So Charlie's death
Thank God.
has set this off, and we are determined. We're determined not only to honor him, but to keep our country safe and to ensure freedom of speech on both sides.
Let's go.
So, we can't, you know, as conservatives, we can't be afraid to go out and speak. You know, I know people are canceling speeches. They're having to bring down the size of the rallies. You know, President Trump was millimeters away from death, and he was not deterred, and we're not going to be deterred.
No, we can't, man. We can't afford to do that. We'll turn into a communist nightmare if we do that. All right. RNC research. Democrats keep hitting new lows ahead of Election Day. It's an article here. So communist Zoran Mamdani, he took nearly $13,000 in potentially illegal foreign donations from at least 170 donors, even one from his mother-in-law in Dubai. He still hasn't returned 88 of the donations that are worth more than $7,000. To make matters worse, his wife publicly mourned a pro-Hamas extremist who celebrated the October 7th attacks. And I'll link that if you want to check that out with regard to his wife. And we've got, so anyway, that was from New York Post. Mamdani's wife mourns death of Palestinian influencer Saleh al-Jafarawi, who celebrated October 7th attacks. And Democrats' new leaders are showing exactly why they shouldn't be in charge. Democrat New Jersey gubernatorial candidate Mickey Sherrill is continuing to deny accusations of violating the Stock Act. How did she make $7 million while in Congress? Sherrill supports the Democrats' government shutdown to give health care to illegals. A new 10-minute video shows Virginia Democrat Abigail Spanberger repeatedly refusing to say men don't belong in girls' locker rooms because she already voted for it. Spanberger has not revoked her endorsement of Jay Jones, who fantasized about killing his political opponent and his family and supports murdering cops. And yeah, not only did he fantasize about killing his political opponent, he fantasized about killing his opponent in front of his children. I mean, this dude is sick. Every time you think Democrat hit rock bottom, they grab a shovel. It's no surprise Democrats' approval rating is in free fall. Just look at their candidates. Yeah, amen to that. All right, I'll head to the next one. And we've got DOW rapid response. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth spoke about the new press policy at the Pentagon. And it's a quote from Trump, so I'll just play it.
Will you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have.
No.
Well,
Not gonna happen.
Finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself. But I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our
Too many
nation.
leaks.
press is very dishonest. Not you.
Extremely.
But the press is very dishonest. You have something to
Trump
say?
knows better than anybody.
I appreciate the question because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic.
All right, so we got a little bit of this earlier.
Which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, it's shocking that hasn't been the case all along, that the press can just waltz into the Pentagon and go wherever the hell they want. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, especially, just like he said, in the White House, they can't do that. I'm sure in most, if not all other government buildings, they can't do that. So why the Pentagon? That doesn't really make sense.
Or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon.
Yeah, we already saw this clip
classified
earlier.
Area in the world. Or also that if they
It goes a
sign
little
on
longer,
to the
so there might be a
credentialing,
little
they're
more.
not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here. As you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street.
Secretary Rubio always looks miserable, doesn't he?
You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to
He's
be
got a very
there.
serious face.
They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently, too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it, although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. And so you have them in an area and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, no shit. That too. I mean, if they can go anywhere they damn well please, they probably do sometimes. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel. Today, the FBI took down one of the largest global human trafficking and cyber fraud networks ever. This was a criminal empire built on forced labor and lies, and we crushed it. This FBI will use every tool to defend victims, recover stolen assets, and bring predators to justice. I don't know if they linked anything. Oh, yeah, you did. Okay, good. All right, so we'll get a little information about this. So, chairman of Prince Group indicted for operating Cambodian forced labor scam compounds engaged in cryptocurrency fraud schemes. And this is out of Brooklyn. An indictment was unsealed today in federal court in Brooklyn, charging Chen Zi, known as Vincent, the founder and chairman of Prince Holding Group, or Prince Group, a multinational business conglomerate based in Cambodia, with wire fraud conspiracy and money laundering conspiracy for directing Prince Group's operation of forced labor scam compounds across Cambodia. Individuals held against their will in the compounds engaged in cryptocurrency investment fraud schemes known as pig butchering scams that stole billions of dollars from victims in the United States and around the world. The defendant is at large. The United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York and the department's National Security Division also filed today a civil forfeiture complaint against approximately 127,271 Bitcoin. Holy shit. Currently worth approximately $15 billion that are proceeds and instrumentalities of the defendant's fraud and money laundering schemes, and were previously stored in unhosted cryptocurrency wallets whose private keys the defendant had in his possession. Those funds, the defendant cryptocurrency, are presently in the custody of the U.S. government. The complaint is the largest forfeiture action in the history of the Department of Justice. U.S. Attorney General Pambondi Joseph Nocella Jr., United States Attorney for the Eastern District of New York, John A. Eisenberg, Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's National Security Division, and Christopher G. Raya, Assistant Director in charge for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, New York Field Office, and Frank A. Tarantino III, Special Agent in charge for the DEA in New York, and William Ferrari, Deputy Assistant Director, U.S. Department of State's Diplomatic Security Service, Office of Investigations, announced the indictment and forfeiture action. Damn, dude, this was complex. Today's action represents one of the most significant strikes ever against the global scourge of human trafficking and cyber-enabled financial fraud, stated Attorney General Bondi. By dismantling a criminal empire built on forced labor and deception, we are sending a clear message that the United States will use every tool at its disposal to defend victims, recover stolen assets, and bring to justice those who exploit the vulnerable for profit. We are grateful for the hard work of Director Patel and the men and women of the FBI. So, yeah, so it goes on a ways after that. As I said, it's going to be linked in the description. Yeah, so it's very, very detailed. What was it? $15 billion. That is a ton of Bitcoin that they have. So there you have it, man. Largest in Department of Justice history. And I've got, oh, wait, hold on. No, that's a comment from that post. All right. So Rep. James Comer, we now know the DOJ, FBI, SEC, the Treasury, the IRS, and the CIA knew what the Bidens were doing and had concerns. The CIA Director Ratcliffe has released a report that backs up our GOP oversight investigation into the Biden family's corrupt foreign business deals. Holy cow, man.
And Congressman James Comer joins us now. And then to end it all, they give Hunter this retroactive pardon 10 years back. And could there be a more corrupt family in Washington?
No.
Just a little bit.
Not only is the Biden family corrupt, the government's corrupt. This was a huge cover-up. The cover-up may be worse than the crime. Thank goodness for John Radcliffe. Thank goodness that he's finally put the truth out there so the American people can see. This is exactly what Jim Jordan and I had been saying all during the Biden administration when we were investigating the family for their corrupt, it's not even business practices, for their corrupt practice of taking payments from our enemies around the world. And just think about it, Rob. They impeached Donald Trump. The Democrats impeached Donald Trump
over a phone call
just for asking if this took place when he was president. And it did take place.
And it did.
There was nothing wrong with that phone call. We've all heard the recording.
Fucking
It was
animals.
a perfectly fine phone call. He's doing what I want every president to do. Try to root out waste, fraud, abuse, and mismanagement in the federal government. Shame on the CIA for covering this up. Thank you, John Radcliffe. Now let's get some accountability.
Yeah, well said. Want to get to a couple other things here with you. You're a Kentucky congressman, very rural in your area. The tariff fight has hit farmers pretty hard. Many feeling the wrath of countries like China refusing to buy soy, other products like that.
That's not related, but I'll let it play out.
Bailout,
It affects
maybe
us.
$10 billion or more to aid
It's
farmers,
swamp
using
related.
some of that tariff revenue to kind of get them through this fight as we try to set up these tariffs. Majority of that goes towards farmers, to soybean producers. How important is this?
Well, it's very important. Look, the soybean farmers aren't to blame in this. They planted that crop assuming that those foreign markets were going to be there. China is the biggest importer of American soybeans. They import anywhere from 25 to 35% of the American soybean crop every year. And they haven't bought a single soybean this year.
Right.
So I think we need to do something to help the soybean farmers, and I appreciate President Trump for looking out for their best interest, and let's try to come up with a solution to this problem.
Want to follow up on something I've been covering with you now for a while. The farmers in your state along the Ohio River and in other states as well have gotten hammered this year. You've had record-breaking floods exacerbated by this government-installed and government-built Olmsted Dam. You were on this program back in April when this happened, talking about how previous administrations never
That's why it's not a good idea to live on the river.
Claims with all of these farmers who have been decimated by this dam. And the farmers kind of getting abused by the government on this. Is there any update on this?
Okay, so it was kind of a man-made issue then.
Well, we keep hearing there's movement. There's a judgment fund in the federal government for things like this. And this is a situation where, for no fault of their own, the farmers' lands were flooded. They were flooded by the Corps of Engineers. They made a decision to flood these lands
That's a problem.
to control the water levels downstream. And it came at a significant cost. Not only did the farmers lose the crops, which they had insurance for, but it created a lot of damage to their farms. It eroded a massive amount of topsoil, which you can't replace.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
So these farmers had damage, and I feel like it's the government's responsibility to make them whole, because this was a government decision. They didn't consult with the farmers.
Yeah,
they just
unfortunately.
did it. So hopefully we'll get some movement, and I strongly encourage the administration to do something about it.
Hearing some movement. All right. Well, that's good to hear.
Man, that sucks. I didn't even hear about that. That's absolutely wild. So anyway, it looks like that's all I got. And as I said, I'll link everything in the description if you want to check it out. And I'll be back with another one tomorrow. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me if you subscribe, and I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, the bureaucrats, the agencies, and everyone else. I also post daily episodes over on X, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.